Hey, everybody, it's Kevin Henry, editor-in-chief for drbicuspid.com. Thanks so much for joining us for another podcast where I am thrilled to not only welcome on a dear person at heart, but also our hygiene editor and a dear friend, and that is Dr. Kelly Tanner. Hey, Kelly, how are
Hey,
you, my friend?
Kevin. Happy New Year to everybody. I hope everyone was able to unplug. I know that I did.
Yeah,
It was nice.
I think we all needed it after that 2025, and now we're hitting 2026. And I'll tell you one thing that I noticed is, and I don't blame any of our readers for doing this, but a lot of people unplugged in December. There were a lot of folks that, took time away from the computer, and I think that's great. But they also missed a great article that you put out that I want to talk about today. And that was talking about that psychology behind any resistance from the team whenever new technology comes in. And I thought this was such an excellent article and so timely because so many of 2026 goals revolve around technology and ROI and the bottom line and everything else. And yet we have team members out there who are like, why are we doing this? I don't understand.
I know. And Kevin, that is the question that teams ask when they bring new tech into the practice of, we should be using this. Why aren't we? So that's not only in the manufacturer's mind, but it's also in the mind of the practice when doctors and practices and DSOs work so hard to be able to afford certain upgrades for certain things when it sits and it collects dust, right? And there's the question of what is affecting this, and is it systems? Is it we're not giving people enough time? But a lot of it is here. It's the shame. It's the looking over and knowing that it's that if you can ask that other team member, how do I do this again? How do I turn it on? I can't remember because you haven't used it and you're learning. So what does that look like? Not only from a manufacturer standpoint and being able to support that integration and adoption, but then the psychology that surrounds that person who has had a lot of bad experiences of saying, the last time I did this, I was shamed by someone and I felt small when I was trying to do that in front of the patient. And it just doesn't feel good. And I think most of us have been there, regardless of if you've been in your role for a lot of times, no matter what it was that we've done and learned in our lives, that we have avoidance when it comes to certain things because we don't want to feel like that again, right?
Yeah. Well, and we're going to link to the article. If you're watching this on Dr. Bicuspid, it's in the article. If you're listening to this, it's in the show notes. But one of the things that I love that you said, and it just was like an aha moment for me, is that you can be 20, 25 years in dentistry and be this experienced person who's so confident in everything you do, hygienist, assistant, front office, whatever. And then all of a sudden something new comes in and you're right back to square one and the uneasiness there is in being the new kid again. I love
Yeah.
that point that you made.
Yeah, it's a lot of us have that experience. I know you know what I'm talking about for all the fellow listeners. When you were in dental school, hygiene school, assisting school, I know for me in hygiene school, back in the day, it was not always a comfortable experience. I left a few days crying, and I'm not a crier. I'm a Capricorn. Come on. I mean, we hold all of our emotions, and I mean, we're very loving creatures, but feeling like we're under the microscope all of the time and that we must get it right, that perfection and excellence are the only option. And then to put something new in our hands to say, to ask questions and to feel like we should already know it, right? Because especially I think, Kevin, the way that we're learning now, that a lot of times someone can go and just read an article or listen to a YouTube on it, and some people don't know that they have access to that. So even something that I learned about, I'm kind of segueing here about how QR codes can now talk to us versus being just scanned and reading it. There's now new technology when you scan a QR code that now it's audible. But the ways in which we're learning are evolving almost every second. And so you have the person who's graduated, I mean, shoot. I mean, in the article I wrote about the 25-year-old veterans, hey, but even people who've graduated 10 years ago, they're contacting me about my refresher course because they there's so much out there, they don't know where to start, and that's overwhelming. So how do we meet people where they are to figure that out, and the learners in your practice, and how the culture is supporting them? Because we know that it's hard to find good people, and they're like you and I, Kevin, we're talking about the DTA, that the focus is on teams and the retention of teams because we can't find them like we used to be able to for various reasons since COVID. So all of these things make for an interesting mix of where we are today.
So, question I've got for you, and looking from the hygiene side of things. If something's brought into the practice and you're telling the hygienist this is going to be our standard of care moving forward, and it's something you're not familiar with, is that up to the dentist to provide the training? Is it up to the hygienist to do his or her own research? How do we bridge that gap between I don't know what this is to feeling confident about it?
Yeah, it really becomes an integration adoptive type of culture. And I think that it starts with doctor asking said tech company or new manufacturer or whatever. Maybe it's a composite, it doesn't even have to be a device, right? Even a composite or a new etchant or a new procedure that you're bringing in that you're asking the manufacturer before you're purchasing it, what is this level of training that's available for the team and I? Is there a webinar that we can go on together? If it's a simple composite new product, I know that there's a few like, Bisco has like a new Quantium composite that's come out. They're having webinars on things that are educating the dentists about it. So what does that look like? Is it live? Is it a canned or, an on-demand course where me as the assistant or me as the hygienist, I can go and watch it at home and be like, okay, wait, I want to rewind that. What is that ideal situation for that learner? And then to know that, as the dentist who's purchasing this, bringing it in, and yeah, this is all kind of mushy, gushy, woo woo, but it's knowing how your offices prefer to learn, just like all their other preferences, when their birthdays are, what they like is their gift cards, how they choose to be rewarded when they're hitting milestones and goals. What is their preference for how they learn? And asking that manufacturer, what do you have for this that can help my team make this adopt seamlessly, especially when, Kevin, time is compressed. Gosh, like no day is the same in dentistry. We talk about that all the time, but how is it that we're still making this something that the entire team is carrying through their core values and have adopted it in our workflow?
I'll tell you something I hear. So my wife, Anna Johnson, is a Dentrix trainer, goes all over the country helping practices, get up to speed on Dentrix and their practice management software. And she comes back and I always debrief with her. What'd you hear? How'd it go? And I hear two things and I want to hear your thoughts on this. Number one, that's not the way we did it at my previous practice. And number two, those who will learn but then fall back into the rut of the way they used to do it because it's easier, it's more comfortable, and everything else. And again, I ask you, is that a leader thing saying, this is how we do it here, this is how we're doing it now, and keeping them from falling back into that rut of what's easy and comfortable?
Yeah, so you did a you did ask that question. Dana's awesome, by the way. Hi, Dana. And there's a couple of things there. So I think it's easy. I'm going to address your second point first. It's easy to fall back into the way that it always was because that's the comfort level that we're in. And I think that we see that come in through when we are pressed for time as I'll just write it down over here. Whose responsibility is it? It's a team responsibility. So doctor, I think, has a responsibility to ask the questions of how we interface in with that support. Then how is the team being, I say accountable, but how was the team kind of leaning into the new process and who's taking ownership of that? So do you have an ambassador in the practice or whatever it is you want to call it to kind of make it cute? Who's in charge of that? Like if you have a person who is really good with, I mean, I was on a call last night with a different manufacturer with my Rarebird speakers, and they were talking about their software. So they were talking, one of the team members was talking, one of the doctors actually was talking about how he integrated this technology in. He identified a kind of like a super, wave the flag, love this kind of thing, who was really good with the tech, who led the rest of the team, who every Thursday they would say, okay, Thursday's our training day. So they would every week come to the table. So this is talking about culture, doctor leading culture, saying, making it up. Monday at lunchtime is our bring it to the table day of issues we're having around this and adoption. Answering everyone's questions. So everyone is literally at the table and everyone goes, okay, that's the way you did that. So it's not these hiccups throughout the day as much, right? Because eventually what you hope is that these issues just kind of get smaller and smaller and smaller. But then what they did is their integration and adoption process is that they had the Thursday meetup with the tech guru who could say, oh, okay, just do this and click here and it resolves your issue. And it's like, oh, or wipe the camera down with this versus that. Oh, that's what's causing that. So then they went from this big bite size of issues that they were trying to all solve, that they had a common thread of it. Doctor led the team to say, we're blocking aside time. This is really important. And here's how we're going to roll this out. So every Monday they would meet, answer the questions. The pool got smaller of the questions, and then they triaged it on Thursdays. So it starts with the doctor and the culture that the doctor's leading and who is accountable overall for watching that develop and also the integration of that. And usually, Kevin, to your point, and what Dana is also describing of just going back and falling into what it's always been or what we've always done is asking, what could make this more comfortable for you? To ask what those pain points are for them throughout the day. And sometimes it's very simple things of, I don't have time to, while the patient's in front of me talking about the software that Dana works with, to enter that. I feel uncomfortable searching for the thing, for the icon on the screen. And where's that? Because I have too many windows open. Well, why are the windows open? Do you need another screen? Do you need a whole other monitor to help them solve that problem? It's usually a very simple thing that keeps that from happening.
So that's one thing I know we're watching as we head into 2026. And I'm curious, just as that hygiene thought leader out there, what are you watching in 2026? What are the things that are standing out to you as we enter into this next year?
Yeah. Heart of everything I do is the human, the teams. I have a book that's going to be released in February. It's called Leading from the Inside Out. So of course that's where my heart is. It's about emotional intelligence, about how we lead and are the leaders in our profession, no matter what your title is, with empathy, and how we're connecting with our patients with empathy, each other with empathy. So it's a blend of emotional intelligence and motivational interviewing, and that intersection, if they had a baby, to say, how do we elevate each other in these ways and be mindful of ourselves and leaders of ourselves? It actually has a playbook for each role in the book, and it starts it off. There'll be other trainings as well. So for me, I'm always human focused of how do we get everybody to do what we have in our head, right? I mean, I lead teams of people now. I have about 10 people on my team. And had an interview this morning, and I was talking about the person, I call them my angels, the people who help me do all the things that are in my head that I get to carry out my dream every single day. I'm so grateful for it. How do you get to do that? And it's to getting at their hearts and leading with that heart centric and leading from the inside out. And it starts with us. So that's always number one for me, Kevin, because it's always about the person. And I think that if we did that, that it leads to easier things, it decreases burnout, right? The things that we've all been talking about and maybe tired of talking about. It leads to better understanding of the different OPAs and different things. I know I'm facing in Virginia right now, this upcoming legislative session, where the Virginia Dental Association has their opinion on how we can solve the shortages. The Hygiene Association does as well. But how do we lead from the inside out to come together to say, here's what we know could be best for the patient. How can we solve this together? And not doing like scope creep on the dental assistants who may or may not even want to do some of the things, Kevin, that are being proposed. So those things, how AI is integrating, I could go on, but yeah, I'll stop there and let you
No.
let you ask questions or even talk.
Well, it's funny because I love this time of year, and there's part of me that hates this time of year because we all think, oh, it's a new year, everything's gonna be different. No, the same crud keeps bringing over, and I think that we can't. Resolutions are not one of my big things, but I think we can at least make plans for what did we learn last year and how do we not make those same mistakes in 26 or at least improve upon what we did in 25. And I think what you said makes so much sense because it's got to come from our hearts and our heads. And I think we need common sense and love right now more than we've ever needed it, especially whenever it comes to working with each other in the dental practice.
Yeah, and if you think about even taking our bubble outside, I got our families, then we got what's going on in the world, loving on each other and knowing that we feel safe, that psychological safety is a big portion. I was at Creighton Dental School last week. We are integrating emotional intelligence into the dental curriculum. We start with the D1 students, and I'm training the advisors who are advising these students throughout their curriculum there. What we talked a lot about is that the way that we learn how to lead, you read any leadership book. I mean, my PhD is in organizational leadership and business. You look at any leadership book, and what it talks about is the way that good leaders are built, no matter what your title is, because we all are leaders where we are, of our family, of our, maybe sports league, or maybe it's a religious affiliation. We all are leaders where we show up, but is to reflect. And I think for me that, I do it every day, but I know that there are certain points of the year, halfway through the year, that I didn't even realize I was doing it. And then at the end of the year, that's that point of reflection. So it's not about new year, new me, because you're still you. But what we're in right now are things that we have created for ourselves in the past. So everything you're living today is what you created yesterday, right? It's the preset, it's the present. So you have preset what you have right now today. And what you do with today's information is that thread of any good leader is that reflection. You must have reflection in order to change your present and your future and to going into that. So that's what I love about this time of year, because that intentionality, that action step towards that next step of what you intend to do. It doesn't have to be perfect. Talk about the 1% difference in how you can look at yourself differently, read yourself differently, even if it's just like, man, that really triggered the hell out of me. Where did that even come from? Why am I so upset right now about this? That doesn't even make sense. I don't even care about that. What in you decided to react? And how is that? How is that affecting everything else around you? Because we know that it does. I love this time of year because we get to be intentional about how we move forwards. Looking back, saying, okay, I could have focused the lens more on that. And how do I do that? This month, ChatGPT can help you do that too. It's really cool if you say, here's the things that I want to improve upon this year, or here's the goal. You can use it. You can use Colby Learning. You can use your Enneagram. You can use whatever it is that you want to do. How do I reach this goal the first quarter? How do I
Mhm.
make a small difference in my life? These are different ways that it can help you. I know some people are just like, I didn't even know about this thing, that all this stuff it can do. Try it. It's there. Let it help you become a better human in the ways, and that's what AI in dentistry does for us too. It doesn't replace us. It doesn't replace our
There you go.
thinking and acknowledging who we are and what we're bringing to the table. But it's about saying, okay, here's what I'm bringing. Here's what I want to do.
I love you mentioned that because one of the things that I've been so impressed with ChatGPT lately are their TV commercials. And it's about, how do I do pull-ups? Well, how do I make this dinner for this girl I'm interested in? Common sense things that I think people don't realize. You can just say, "Hey, help me with this," and it gives you ideas. And I think that to me is one of the most valuable things about AI right now, is just it gets you past brain lock a little bit and helps you unlock maybe something that you didn't know how to tackle.
Yeah, I mean, even think of this, Kevin, as we're talking about this just came to mind. What if you created something like a prompt and said, here's what I experienced today at work. And this is how I felt. How do I talk to this person in a way that I think usually responds like this? And this is how I'm experiencing it. How can I respond to this? And yeah, how can I respond to this to be a better team member, to come across attention intentionally, like I was talking about? It gives you a different perspective. It's like talking to someone, but you're talking to millions of people who have input this information, so it can give you a different perspective and perspectives.
Love that. That's
I don't
awesome.
know, it just came up.
That's good. I mean, seriously. You know, I and I'll tell you now, it's spurring roundtables, because all the times that I have these assistants that are asking me questions, I'm like, maybe that's what we should be setting up, is just a way that, here's what happens in the practice, here's the AI answer, here's a human answer, do with it what you will. I think that's pretty cool, actually.
That would be cool. Here's
Oh,
what
so we
AI.
just hatched something right here on the podcast. See?
Yeah, let's do this.
I
And
like
how
this.
different is it? But it's
Yeah.
also, I think, going to be based on our own experiences, right? And how we would each answer it. But there's a way, right? You and I have seen dentistry evolve where I tell you, in the practices I worked in, it was growing up in the profession, like, you were so scared to make a mistake. I mean, I think maybe I've talked about this on a previous podcast. Maybe I didn't, or I wrote about it. But I remember the first time as an assistant, Kevin, I went to go duplicate a film for insurance in the darkroom.
There you go.
Okay. That time dates it, right? and you're on the duplicator, and I'm going to go duplicate it for insurance so we could send it off snail mail. And I exposed the entire box of duplicating film. I felt this small. The doctor worked for was not happy. Do you know how much that cost? Do you know what you just did? I mean, that cringed. I think that still cringes inside of me, but that's how it was. Do you even know what you just did? Right. And it was a simple error. I was like, crap, I forgot to put the lid back on the box.
Yeah. And and I have a feeling you didn't mean to do that. It wasn't
No,
intentional, and that's the worst part about it is, it's not like you were intentionally costing somebody money, but
no, never would have done that. And that's how we learn though. And that's how you guys, we have to make mistakes. We have to talk to each other in the practice. Dentistry has changed. There are hundreds of webinars that I've been on about leadership and leading inside your operatory and outside of your operatory and coaching that I do. And people are just afraid to ask their team questions because they don't feel safe. Psychological safety, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's right there as one of the base fundamental foundational needs. You're not going to feel, it doesn't matter if if you're a billionaire, if you don't live in a safe neighborhood, you're not going to want to do anything that you're doing. You're in survival mode. So why would people do anything else in your practice if they feel like they're in survival mode? What can you do today, that 1% difference that would help people?
thinking a whole other thing. So we may have to touch on that down the road.
Survivor. Oh my gosh. Okay,
Seriously.
that's my next article. It's on Survivor.
You know what? 50th, this is the 50th one, right? Coming up. I keep seeing the commercials for it. And now I'm telling people I watch a lot of TV, but so I can keep talking
Didn't
about
know that.
commercials.
I didn't know that. I don't watch that, but okay.
Oh, there you go. So all right, we got a lot to follow up on, and again, we're going to link to Kelly's article in the show notes because it's a good hopping off point for a lot of things that we've talked about today. And I know we're going to be talking about a bunch more. But Kelly, you mentioned your book, you mentioned Rare Bird, and I want to make sure people know where they can learn more about you and all the good stuff you're doing in our industry right now.
Thank you, Kevin. It's truly, I want to help you, everyone who's around you. I want to leave, this is the legacy that we leave, right? This is all about what I had truly feel like I've been born here to live. There's like a pre-book launch. I'm giving away 5 advanced copies. If you guys want to go to drkellytanner.com, you'll see it at the top, book launch, drkellytanner.com. So you can find out more about the book there to enter the giveaway. And the book is about how to lead your team, how to lead yourself with empathy and to understand who you are. Because people a lot of times would be like, this is woo-woo. This is the GUI Center. It's the GUI Centers. With that, and then also Rare Bird Speakers, head over to rarebirdspeakers.com. We have the best speakers on our roster. We also have speaker training. I didn't even tell you this, Kevin, but if you have wanted to know soup to nuts how to become a speaker, if you have an idea and you're like, I don't know how to get idea to stage to sponsorship, I have a program for you that's all on demand. You can learn and slow down and pause and go back with worksheets to help you know all the systems that we use every single day and Rarebird so you can do it yourself. You can learn about how to bring your opening on stage, how to close a presentation, all the way to what the email should look like to your sponsors and to the meetings and how to get connected with them.
And just real quick, speaking of speaking, I know you're going to be at Hinman, one of the many meetings that you're doing coming up, but I think that is very cool.
Yeah, thank you. That's such an honor to be invited there this year. I know, it's just such an honor. So now I'll get to see you there too, Kevin.
Absolutely. That'll be a fun time. I always go whenever I get to hang out with you online or in person, my friend. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you too. And thank you all for everything that you do every single day to touch the lives of those around you.
Absolutely. Couldn't say it better myself. And we're going to have all the links for Kelly in the show notes or in the article if you're watching this on Dr. Bicuspid. So very easy to find Kelly. Not only all the articles she's done on Dr. B, but also outside of Dr. B, everything that she's doing to impact the dental industry. So until next time, Kevin Henry, editor in chief for Dr. Bicuspid, signing off. And as always, to you nothing but success ahead.
Thank you. Be well.